Good afternoon, everyone. This is episode 49 of the Off Topical Podcast. My name is Gardner.
My name is Raven.
And what are we talking about today, Raven? We're talking about the EU's highest court rules that EU citizens can make content that's illegal blocked worldwide. What the hell? Plus, tons of news about vaping and Russia and all this stuff. It's going to be a good show.
Oh, yeah. Very off-topical today.
Very off-topical.
I meant to say topic, but, I'm fine with topical. It's fine.
So first up, the EU can force Facebook and social media platforms to remove illegal content worldwide. Oh my God, what's going on with this story, Raven?
I'm kind of split on this because, illegal is, I don't really know how I feel about that, right?
Yeah.
Because, on the one hand, I believe that, governments should be able to do whatever they want inside of their borders. Mm-hmm. Whether or not I agree with what they're doing is another matter, but, that's a topic for another day. But I don't know how I feel about some random European country like let's see, which one
Austria.
did it? Yeah, so Austria decides that this is illegal, so now I can't view it in my country? No. I am completely against that. 100% against that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if let's say, because the instance that was used was inaccurate information used against an Austrian politician. And false information against the politician should be removed because, it's basically slander.
Yeah.
It's not slander, but it basically is slander. It's not illegal per se, but it's also not accurate, and it can affect them, both politically and, in their private lives.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with that being removed. But how do I feel about the European Union deciding whatever they don't want doesn't get to be on the internet, which is hosted in the United States to begin with? I don't really feel that great about that, actually.
Yeah, right. I mean, so here's the thing. So what happened is that the European highest court decided on this decision that they were going to basically make it so that if an EU member state court decides that something is unlawful, if it's defamatory in nature, then Facebook has to act and they have to block that content globally. But what's even crazier than that is that they also have to block posts with equivalent remarks. That's the thing
it feels very overreaching. It feels very overreaching.
Yeah.
And I've never thought I'd ever say this, but I hope Facebook just ignores it. Just blocks it in that country and just ignores it, or just blocks it in the European Union and
yeah,
we're not blocking this over here.
Part of the thing that I might get some flack for saying this, but I really think that companies like Facebook should be solely an American social network, in my opinion. And I think that social networks should exist for other countries all over the world because really,
it definitely would cripple their power, that's for sure.
It would cripple their power, but it would also, what it would do is it would allow, I read a report that Facebook would, there was a ton of, ethnic cleansing posts in a country, and I don't remember which one, but in a third world country, and Facebook had only one or two employees who actually spoke the language of that country. And so it's they're facilitating hate speech or whatever you want to call it. And they're subject to, whatever laws. And it's they're just so laissez-faire about it. And it's Facebook should really be an American company. China should have their own Facebook,
They do have their own Facebook.
They do, right. And but all these different countries. I mean, the European Union should have their own Facebook thing. And maybe what should happen is that they should work as a federated thing so that you have the Fediverse. So you have
that'll never happen, but I do get where you're going with that. That'll never happen.
Of course, I'm being an idealist here, but you get what I'm saying. Countries should have their own social networks. They should probably be private, but they should be privately held, not held by the government. But they should but they should be subject to the laws of that nation and that nation only. And you should have the ability to interoperate between them and send messages outside of to other people who are on the same
oh yeah,
protocol or whatever.
I just feel like this is far overreaching.
It is.
It's far overreaching. Like, I do understand, like, I assume the thought behind it is that this wouldn't get abused, but it's gonna get abused.
Oh my God, this will be abused so insanely. Like,
it's much like how Article 13 is, kind of in effect now, or will be anyway. I think it's in the process of being implemented. Once that's fully up and running, that's going to affect everyone really bad. I honestly could see YouTube creating a YouTube EU, and only YouTube European members can, anyone can access it, but only people from the European Union. That's the only version of YouTube they'll be able to access.
Yeah.
And that sort of stuff, because that's the only way to comply with it.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's like, I was on Lunduk's show earlier this week, and he was talking about like the internet is just going to like disappear at some point. And I'm thinking, you know what, that doesn't make sense. Like, it's so ingrained in people's lives now. I just don't see, that's like saying that paper is just going to become a thing of the past. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's like, I see rulings like this, and I'm like, well, maybe the internet as we know it won't exist in 20 years,
I think that's what he was probably referring to. Like, what we know now, this big open space of ideas, which governments hate when people have open ideas. All governments hate that, by the way. You'll never find a government that's supportive of open ideas. But I don't know. Like, I don't feel like this is going to go well. I think it's going to be one more nail in the coffin for the European Union as far as this sort of stuff goes. Because as you know, a lot of European Union nation states are not actually all that happy with the European Union right now.
Yeah.
I'm not just talking about Brexit. I mean, a lot of the former USSR countries like, Poland and Ukraine and various others, they're not really all that thrilled with the European Union right now.
Right.
Because they keep getting and like Hungary and, they're getting like the bad end of the stick. And, I think that this is just, it's not a very big deal, but it's just one more thing to throw on the pile. And sooner or later, that pile is going to get too big to ignore. So, and that could just be, wild conspiracy theory or whatever, but I don't feel like it is. I feel like things in Europe are eventually going to come to a head. And also, I don't really like, people in Europe don't like when the U.S. dictates what they do, and I don't like what Europeans dictate what we do. Like, over here, we have a pretty great First Amendment, and quite frankly, they can go screw off. That's my stance on it. Like, I like tons of people from the European Union, got friends from all over the globe, but I don't want their governments dictating what I can see online.
Right.
Like, I have no representative say in that. So I feel like one or two things will happen. Either the European Union will just be ignored, or YouTube will set up YouTube EU, which will just be, or, and Google EU, like they'll just have very specific versions. And that just leads to more overhead, more fragmentation. And it's just like, ugh.
And it leads to technologies being developed that are specifically designed for censorship.
To censor, yeah. So, and that's what I see happening. That's exactly what I see happening.
And, I'm not the kind of guy who is like, the sky is falling, censorship. Like, you guys know that. Like, I find it gross a lot of the time when people claim things like, Facebook is censoring people or whatever. Like, there are very specific, stringent definitions for what censorship equals, in my opinion. And this feels a lot like censorship. Like, it's one thing to like block defamatory statements, right? It's one thing to like take legal action against defamatory statements. And I think what the judge here in the EU ruling says is that, you have to take them to court and it has to be found defamatory. But it really opens the door. This really opens the door for abuse, in my opinion. And I just find this to be overreaching. And I'm not one to take Facebook's side either, but I am definitely feeling.
I feel like it makes me feel like I need a shower after this.
Yeah, it's bad.
But it's true. it's you know.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yep. We'd like to know what you guys think about this. Do you think that
Particularly
this is
those of you
censorship?
from the EU.
Yeah, particularly
Particularly
you
those of you
guys.
from the EU.
I know there's a lot of people from the EU on our forums actually. So
Yeah.
head over there to our forums, forum.heavyelement.io. We promise we won't censor you. And let us know what you think. Forum.heavyelement.io. All right, the next story, vaping has been linked to lung illnesses, and some doctors are saying it looks like mustard gas exposure. What the hell's happening here, Raven?
That's pretty wild that it looks like mustard gas exposure, because mustard gas is pretty
Bad
bad.
news. It's
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, almost like we had an entire world war where lots of people died from it.
Yeah.
Which is crazy that it's showing similar symptoms. Now, here's my stance on vaping. I don't smoke,
Yeah.
and I don't vape because, well, that stuff is just bad for you. So for all the people out there who are like, but vaping's good for you, it's better for you than cigarettes.
False.
My stance on vaping is this. Vaping is just as bad for you as smoking, just in a different way.
Yeah.
Anything you inhale into your lungs that's small particles like that is not good for you. You'll
Right.
never convince me that it's good for you. Vaping is also addictive because it has nicotine in it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't tar up your lungs in the same way. And vaping's too new to determine like long-term ramifications of it. Hell, it could be worse.
Yeah, well, that's this thing. It's like how long does it take for someone who smokes, several cigarettes in a day? How long does it take for that person to develop like the lifelong damage for smoking? I mean, it doesn't take very long, but how long has vaping been around? And now we have like 18 deaths that have been directly linked to vaping, and 180 confirmed or probable cases of these illnesses. It's like vaping's only been around for like 10 years. It's like
Yeah, I think it's been around for like 5 or 6 years, actually. It hasn't even been that long. It might be 10 years, but it really hasn't been around that long.
Yeah, so it's like if there
At
are
least 10
that
years.
many confirmed, linked cases, that's pretty significant that it's bad for you. Hello, pay attention.
Yeah. And I think another problem too is with cigarettes, like with anything, you have to trust what you're smoking.
Yeah.
Most cigarette companies, it's just tobacco leaves. I mean, tobacco leaves are not good for you. Don't know if anyone knew that or not. And inhaling smoke into your lungs is bad for you. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of smoke it is. It's just bad. It's bad to inhale. So,
Drugs are bad. Okay.
okay. We've both seen that South Park episode. But with vaping, you have the same problem. I think the other big problem is where are you getting the product from? Because a lot of the recent deaths have been due to cheap Chinese versions where they were just throwing in random crap, which has been a known problem in a lot of other markets that, China will just start, selling a bunch of stuff. They'll shutter the company. They'll make a new company and rinse and repeat. And they'll be like, millionaires or billionaires. That's what they do. Because they don't have the same regulations that we do here. But they're selling that crap here. And all the people who have died have been smoking or vaping. I don't really know what the proper... I guess it's vaping. Have been using that stuff. So, the case becomes if it's a U.S. or European-based company where the rules on what is in that product, which also means it's more expensive, are much more strict, So that's another thing. Like, it all needs to be sorted out.
Yeah. So according to this Ars Technica article, investigators are focusing on contaminants and counterfeit vaping products, particularly those containing THC. Nearly 80% of the 578 patients that the CDC has detailed reported using THC-containing vaping products. And so the THC, if you guys don't know, THC is the active ingredient in marijuana. It's what gets you high. And so a lot of these products are coming from overseas where they don't have strict laws, like you were saying. And doctors are saying that basically what this looks like is toxic chemical exposure, like mustard gas, and you're breathing that shit right into your freaking lungs, dude. I don't know, man.
Yep.
My whole thing has been with when it comes to this kind of stuff is like, don't do what God didn't give you. You know what I'm saying? Like, God didn't give you cigarettes, so don't smoke cigarettes. Don't smoke vapes, for God's sake.
Well, the only thing I will say nice about vaping is that it doesn't really have any like secondhand problems usually
That we know of.
that we know of for right now.
You know what? Here,
But I
you
would
know
say-
what,
I
why
would
I
say
think that's
vaping is-
bullshit. Hold on, let me say one thing. So I was dating this girl, all right, and she would come over and she'd vape in my apartment. Okay, I have a pretty small apartment. It's like less than 900 square feet.
Yeah, I've seen your apartment. It's pretty tiny.
Yeah. So she comes over for like 2 weeks, maybe every other day. She vapes in my apartment, right? At about I'd say 10 days into that, I could not stop coughing. I could not stop coughing. Now this was in early November, maybe early December, and I didn't have my windows open. And for literally a week, in the middle of December, I had my windows open and I was like trying to move air through my apartment because I was physically getting sick from secondhand vape juice in my apartment. So I think that
Nice.
it's bullshit that it doesn't have secondhand consequences.
It's too new.
Yeah.
It's too new. Tobacco related stuff's been studied for over 60 or 70 years, something like that.
Yep.
We know it. And I think it's high time we start looking into the ramifications of vaping. And, I've said since the beginning that vaping is not better for you than smoking cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of people have used vaping to get off of cigarettes, which I think is great.
But
Because
but from what I've seen with that, people just end up vaping more and getting higher off of nicotine, and being more
Right.
addicted.
right. And that's a problem because I firmly don't believe anything you inhale into your lungs is bad for you.
Yeah, it's
It's
like
just
oxygen
how
or bust.
bad. Yep. And also too, because like I said before, some of these products are like have vitamin E and stuff in them, which is what was causing all their people lungs to clog, which is what killed them. And that's a big deal because what's in it? Like, so I think if we're going to continue to have it, we need to treat it like cigarettes,
Yeah.
more like cigarettes. I mean, we already don't allow kids. Remember when kids were able to buy vape stuff? Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think
And then
it
they
should
shut
be-
that down real quick, which is good. But it blows my mind. What was it? They were able to buy the vape pen they were able to buy the product, but not the vape pen.
Mm,
And it was like, okay, but then they just go get a vape pen from somewhere. Like,
yeah, I definitely think that it should. Like, I think that the age limit for smoking or vaping should be 21. That's my personal
Yeah.
opinion. Because if you
Well-
have 18-year-olds, then they're some 18-year-olds are still in high school and they can go buy it for their friends. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Plus, you're not
Well-
really an adult until you're like 28 years old. So
Do you remember the energy drink phase? Remember
oh
that?
my god, yeah.
But do you remember when they sold energy drinks with alcohol to kids? Do you remember that?
I don't remember that.
Because that used to be a thing. Because remember,
Ugh.
some energy drinks do come with alcohol in them.
Yeah, like Four Loko.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Hey, kids used to be able to buy that.
Dude, there was one time that I drank Four Loko and I literally felt like I was having a heart attack, dude. I was like, oh, like my chest was like that, dude. It was insane, man. I was vibrating, dude. You can't do that
When
shit, guys.
when I was 17 years old, my brother used to love drinking Monster energy drinks,
Yeah.
and he drank a lot of them. And it was during Halloween, and I was out, and he asked me to buy him some Monster energy drinks, and he had the cash for it. I was like, okay, sure. So I bought it for him, and he drank like all 4 cans in a night. We had to take him to the hospital. And his dad at that point was like, no more energy drinks. Dude,
Yeah.
I had to like buy him soda because he had to like inhale soda to keep the caffeine withdrawal from being so bad. It was still bad, but it wasn't as bad, and then had to wean him off that. I was like, oh my God, this is just awful. But I never liked energy drinks. Don't like them, don't need them. You know, I mean, for those of you that don't know me, I only sleep like 4 or 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like that's like usually the most I'll sleep.
Dude,
It's 4 or 5 hours.
I'll go to bed. And you're like, "Good night, dude." And then I like wake up 8 hours later and you're still awake.
No, I actually slept in that period.
Okay.
It's just, you know, you have to do your whole, I need my beauty sleep. I'm a gardener.
I wear a sleep
So-
mask.
Yeah, well, whatever. Normal people sleep 4 hours a day, gardener.
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay, maybe that's not true, but I don't sleep a lot. And I feel fine. Like that's just how much I naturally sleep. I've always been that way, even as a teenager. But yeah, so it's yeah, so back to the vaping. I'm not against people vaping. Like I'm not against people smoking pot. Hell, I'm not even against people doing cocaine. I'm just against people pretending that this shit's good for you.
Yeah. I would agree
Like,
with that.
Don't call it what it isn't. Don't tell me that it's good for you. It's not. You know, you look at firefighters, man, and their lungs, they're trashed, which is crazy because, you know, they have masks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of firefighters who develop like cancer and various other stuff because of the shit they inhale when they go in and pull people out of burning buildings or forest fires. Yeah, forest fires, man. Look at firefighters who fight forest fires. Look at the medical history on them. A lot of them develop lung diseases. They don't develop cancer, but it's almost as if huge concentrations of shit in the air cause problems.
Yeah.
You know, the lung is sort of a filter, but it's not really a filter. You know, we don't have like a filter that cleans out the stuff and then we somehow, I don't know, hack up all the impurities or something. Like we don't have anything like that. So whatever we inhale just lives in the lung.
Yep.
And it damages it and it scars it and it scratches it. You know, there was a study a couple years ago about the small particles of vape pens cuts the lung.
Yep.
And that was immediately debunked by the vape community. And I'm just sitting there thinking, was it really debunked or did you just not like it because it went against what you did, what you wanted? Like again, I'm not against, because I believe if we're gonna ban vaping, then we need to ban the tobacco industry and the alcohol industry. And we already know how that goes. It just creates a huge environment of bootlegging, and no, it makes way worse problems. It's better to just have it be legal. I can understand not wanting cocaine to be legal, okay? Even though it used to be completely legal and Americans used to take it because they thought it would make them better, you know?
Yeah.
Like whatever, you know? But don't tell me that vaping is good for you. I'm so tired of hearing that.
No. It's junk.
It's trash. It's trash. But if you're like, vaping's bad for me, but I like it, I'll give you a big thumbs up. I'll give you 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, you can get the seal of approval.
Yeah. Just don't tell me it's good for you. That's it.
Be honest.
I don't care if you vape. Just be honest about it.
If you vape ironically because you like that H3 video from several years ago, good enough. But don't tell us that it's good for you. That's baloney.
There's an H3 video that made vaping popular?
Oh, yeah. You haven't heard Vape Nation, y'all.
All right. After the podcast, you got to show that to me.
It's really funny. What do you guys think? Do you guys vape? Let us know what you think. Do you think it's good for you? You're welcome to tell us you think it is, but you're wrong in the forum, forum.heavyelement.io. You can also send us an email, show@offtopical.net. All right, Google gets tougher on HTTPS, and they're going to ban mixed content in their browser. What do you think of this story, Raven?
I'm actually fine with it.
Yeah.
But what's funny is that YouTube all the time reports that some content is insecure because it's not being sent over HTTPS.
Oh,
so
really?
they're going to ban themselves? Yeah, I've seen it quite a bit, actually. Like YouTube, like when you go to specific videos, sometimes we'll literally say, you know, not all content. It's not all the time. What I think it is that sometimes their HTTPS service goes down.
Well, you know what I've seen actually, and some people like question me about this, but I have seen this with my own frickin' eyes, dude. Some YouTube channels have the ability from, like, YouTube gives them the ability to include their own trackers.
Yeah, you have that.
JavaScript.
I have that option.
You do?
In my,
I don't have
YouTube
that.
panel.
No, I'm
Yeah.
talking like they can literally include a script tag in their website, in their, not just
Well,
their,
you do it from the panel, yeah, and it gets automatically added to all the stuff. You can add
really,
third-party trackers. Yeah.
you can. I didn't know this. I've only ever seen like 2 or 3, like Vox does it on their videos. And it's like,
You know,
that
but
might be
that
where
could be
that's
what
coming
it
from.
is. That could be what it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
that could be because I don't see it on all videos. That, you know what, you're right. That could be what it is. I think the only reason I have it is because I got a YouTube partnership in 2009, and it was a thing back then. And I think maybe that permission was never revoked. It clearly should have been revoked. Not that I'd ever use it anyway. I don't even like trackers to begin with.
Yeah.
The only tracker I want is the view count and maybe the country of origin. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I don't really want anything else. And all that stuff is completely like irrelevant. Like you won't gain any useful information from that. And you don't need access to the information. You just log it and then you delete the information that you acquired to log it. That's how it should be done. I mean, that's not how they do it because that would just make too much sense. Instead, they store everything. Like I'm fairly certain that Google has like all of my credit cards, even though I've never used it at Google.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
Well, if
bothers
you're
me.
using Chrome, then they're storing that.
I don't use Chrome. I'm a proper human being. I don't use Chrome.
Yeah.
I don't use anything based on WebKit either, but that's not because I hate Google or anything. It's just I just don't use anything based on WebKit.
You like Firefox?
I do like Firefox.
See, WebKit was created by KDE.
Yeah, I know. And then it got co-opted by Google, and now it's Google.
Well, WebKit's not Google, but they like their big engine.
They
Chrome
mandate a lot of stuff into WebKit, though.
Yeah. But
Chrome is just getting terrible. Like Chrome is
Yeah.
going to start blocking ad trackers,
as if.
ad blockers. Sorry. They're going to start blocking ad blockers, like for real now.
Yeah.
Like some of the new changes are just going to, and every time the community's like, no, we can't have that. So now they're basically making their own ad blocker. And I'm just like, well, that's not going to block ads.
No, it's gonna block competitors' ads. That's what it's
Yep.
gonna do. And it's gonna probably
Yep.
substitute competitors' ads for their own, dude. Like that's the kind of crap that Google does.
You know, I have a lot of misgivings against Mozilla because I don't like some of the stuff that they do. But I will say that as far as being very privacy focused, they do stick to that one rule.
They do.
You have to disable Pocket though because Pocket is stupid.
Yeah, I'm not a Pocket fan.
Go into About Config and type in Pocket, everyone, and then look for the enabled and just set it to true. Oh, sorry, false. It'll say true, and it says something about is Pocket enabled or something, and just set it to false. Get rid of Pocket. It makes your life so much better. You could still use that reader thing though, whatever it's called, the reader view, because that's not associated. I love reader view, by the way. Love it. It's great when I read books online and stuff.
Reader view is awesome.
But Pocket needs to just die.
Yeah.
Pocket is unfair and just stupid.
I have disabled Pocket.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. So getting back to Chrome. So basically what they're doing now is Google says that 90% of browsing on the web is over HTTPS at this point. And that's thanks to both Google and Mozilla and Electronic Frontier Foundation pushing for the adoption of HTTPS. And that's a good thing. I mean, the web without HTTPS is inherently insecure, and it's like way easy to do man-in-the-middle attacks and to like steal information.
Did you see that the Electronic Frontier Foundation is really, and Mozilla, not Google though, I don't think. I haven't seen anything from Google, but they could be, so I don't really want to completely discredit them. But they're pushing for encrypted DNS. Did you see that?
Yeah, well, Google is pushing for that too, and there's a bunch of pushback against Google in the EU about HTTPS or DNS over HTTPS.
Yeah. Why would you not want your DNS to be encrypted, though? I don't understand.
Right. Well, so the only problem that I have with DNS over HTTPS is that you can't, like, you know, as someone who like uses Linux and does development and stuff, like I need at some times to like modify my hosts file and like point domain, like non-existent domains at like localhost or something. You can't do that with HTTPS, with DNS over HTTPS. So that's the only problem that I have. But yeah, I agree. Like it should be, you should definitely have.
For development productions, it wouldn't be used, but for, you know, everything
Right.
else, like, to the consumer, it should be used.
Yeah, and you can disable
there's no
it
reason
in
not to.
Firefox too, but I think that it's a good thing that DNS is encrypted.
Wait, it's an actual feature now? How do you enable it?
Oh yeah,
Is it
if
in the
you
about
in
config? Hang
Firefox,
on.
it's under preferences, and then I think it's
Wait, really? It's under preferences? Like it's actually like it's an option? I
yeah.
always thought it was yeah, you don't have to go into about config. Where is it?
Yeah, so if you go into network settings, and then down at the bottom, click on settings, and then click enable DNS over HTTPS.
Wait, what version of Firefox are you using? Because
Um,
there's options and then general, home, search, privacy, and security.
I'm on Firefox 69.01.
Oh. Well, I
Uh,
don't have a settings thing. Do
okay,
I?
so click on the hamburger menu.
Yep.
Here, wait, I'll show the people on the podcast too. So if you click on your hamburger menu, you click preferences, and then you go down to network. It's at the very bottom of the general, and then hit settings next under network, and then at the bottom. What do you guys think about Chrome moving to HTTPS? What do you think about DNS over HTTPS? Let us know in the forums, forum.heavyelement.io. You can also hit us up on Twitter. I'm at the Linux Gamer. He's at Raven67854. We're also on Mastodon. I'm at gbrian at Librum.1, and he is at Raven67854 at Librum.1. All right, next story. Vladimir Putin and the Russian government are creating their own internet and isolating themselves from the rest of the world, except for, of course, the state-sponsored hackers. What do you think about this, man?
I just like it's funny because like what was it like 2 years ago or something? Russia announced that it was going to be making its own internal independent network so that if something happened, their people would still have internet to connect to Russian websites, essentially.
Yeah.
Which, admittedly, on paper, every country should have that. Where like your key sites are, independent of the rest of the internet, so that you can, still get to them.
Yeah.
Except this is Russia we're talking about, and they're new. So now we're gonna have the Great Firewall of China and the Great Firewall of Russia.
Yep.
This is literally I don't it's funny because Putin is famous for there's a quote by him, supposedly by him, where what is the full quote? It's something to do with if you miss the USSR you have no heart. It's that quote. He's talking about democracy and stuff, which is really hilarious because he's been dictator of Russia for what, 30 years now?
Yeah.
20 years at least, something like that. Anyway, the point I'm getting to is because Putin is a former KGB agent, and it's quite obvious that he just longs for the days of when he was a KGB agent. He had full unlimited power, and he could just do whatever he want. It's fairly obvious that he misses that.
Yeah. He was a member of the Obsidian Order or whatever.
Yeah, very bad man.
Yeah.
Bad man. But yeah, I mean, this is just ridiculous. Like this is not, I'm very much against censorship in all of its forms.
Yeah.
So, to me, on the one hand, the Russian government's like, we're just trying to make sure that no one else can interfere. It's like, okay, fair enough. But we already know how this is going to go. It's going to appear because like Russia's already blocks Telegram, for example, because they can't control it.
Well, isn't
So they
Telegram,
block Telegram.
also a Russian app?
Well, it's by a Russian, but he's not in Russia.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, I guess he could go to Russia. They might arrest him, but I wouldn't recommend it. But it's kind of why he made Telegram in the first place.
Yeah.
But Telegram is blocked in Russia.
I did not know that.
Yep. Or it was. I'm sure it still is. I don't see why they would unblock it.
So how do they do blocking for that kind of stuff? Because like if it's going over HTTP.
Well, all the ISPs block Telegram's domains and stuff.
Right, but like let's say that like DNS over HTTP gets done, like, and it's implemented everywhere.
Dude, I don't know. I'm sure we'll still have a way to block stuff. But they
Interesting.
definitely don't have that. And also, too, you can still use VPNs and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's not like you can't get it. It's just that there's no direct way to get it. You have to use roundabout methods,
Yeah.
which is funny. So I don't know. I just see this as another attempt to control the people of Russia and what they can do and what they can think. And
Yeah.
it sickens me.
Yeah, it sucks. And according to this post from Forbes, they like the Russian government is installing equipment on major telecoms networks, and they're going to start testing early October, which is now. And that means that, and what they're calling the testing is combat mode, which I find fascinating. Yeah, the Russian government claims that the objective here is to deal with, quote, threats to the stable, safe, and integral operation of the Russian internet on Russian territory. And they want to do this by centralizing the general communications network. The internet is not meant to be centralized. And so by trying to centralize it, you're just going to make it weak. Right?
I mean, I would say probably the best way to protect your country's internet would be to block any traffic coming from China or vice versa, either incoming or outgoing, since they have a nasty habit of siphoning traffic.
Yeah.
I don't know if the U.S. does. I imagine we do. It's never talked about.
Block traffic from China?
No, not blocking, but siphoning.
Oh.
China will redirect all traffic through its stuff and then, gobbles up all the information. So I don't know if the United States does that. I would imagine we do, but since it's never reported on, that either means that our media is, part of it, which is also entirely likely, or we're just better at hiding that we're doing it. It's hard to say.
I don't know. Stuff gets routed through like the NSA. You remember there was like that big data center that the NSA was opening, or one of the security agencies was opening in Utah or something, and like the residents like cut off the utilities to the place. Did you read about that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, they basically wanted all internet traffic to route through that data center. Whatever happened to that? I never heard anything else about that.
They probably just turned it back on and went on about their business.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Turn off utilities. It's the government. They'll just bring in generators.
Yeah.
Like okay, do you want to play this game? Fine, we'll just build a state for all the diesel we're going to be burning. Build a little mini power plant for it. Probably be a better idea for that thing to be off grid anyway.
Yeah. Well, they couldn't. They're in the middle of the desert and they couldn't get water. Like so they cut off the water from the municipality.
Wow, they'll just pipe in water.
Yeah.
Like you won't win that battle. You won't win that battle. The government has unlimited funds at its disposal. It's not one you'll win. But back to the rest of the topic here. I don't know. It's like I said, like on the one hand, I can totally understand wanting to safeguard because cyber warfare is going to be the future of warfare anyway, most likely. I mean, bloody conflicts is still going to be a thing, but most societies, like especially societies like China, the United States, all of Europe, Russia, heavily connected societies like that to technology, you can bring them down without firing a single bullet. I mean, look at the United States power grid. Actually, every country suffers from this problem. No country has yet to make a power grid that is not completely and utterly destroyable.
Yeah.
I mean, so on the one hand, I can totally understand, Russia's insane paranoia that they've never gotten rid of, and wanting to safeguard. Plus they have direct land connections to China, so I can sort of understand that. But, Russia's just, before anyone goes, oh, he hates China, not exactly. It's just Russia's like, for those of you who don't know, it's the largest country in the world, and it also sits on one of the largest reserves of, well, everything. As far as mineral resources go, oil and everything, it's just like a beautiful, fat, prized pig. Anyone would want those resources. But anyway, back to the internet conversation here. I could totally understand wanting to safeguard yourself from, like China, the United States, France, the United Kingdom, But on the other hand, safeguard them from what? Like, it's never really been a problem for them. So the only thing I can think of, plus, if you were going to safeguard something, you sure as hell wouldn't centralize it.
Yeah.
This just reeks of, the think of the children debate, or not debate, but answer. We
Rhetoric.
have to ban guns because think of the children. We have to ban books. Think of the children. Pretty much insert anything you want to ban and then just add think of the children at the end of it. It just reeks of that. And, I feel really bad because, Russia's been, there seems to be quite a bit of discontent, at least from, what information I get out of it, not through mainstream news, but from friends and stuff that, people are just not happy there. Like, more people are dying or leaving than are being born. The population's in decline. And it's not necessarily because there's not enough food or anything. I mean, that's probably part of it, but they're not starving. It's just, there's no economic prosperity or anything. It's just stagnant. And then you have a government that just wants to control literally everything you do or cart your ass off to the coldest and remote region they can think of to keep you there. It's just, I don't know. Not really a fan of this. Really not a fan of it, as you can tell. Just not a fan.
Yeah, I find this scary, and because I don't trust them.
Well, here's the thing, right? China does it, no one really says anything, right? China does it, sure. Russia does it, no one still really says anything. But then other countries are like, wait a minute, there's 2 of them doing this, and then one more does it, and then one more, and then one more, and before you know it, there's more countries that have it, and then the rest are like, why are we not doing this?
And then you have a judge in the EU that's like, hey, remove this content worldwide.
Yeah, I firmly believe that there will be a day where, Earth will become like a singular entity, or at least a federation of some sorts. Don't make any Star Trek jokes.
I was going to.
I know. But I could see, like, it won't be the United Nations. It's far too corrupt. But it would be whatever the United Nations would evolve into, and hopefully not be as corrupt. But that day's not here yet.
Yeah.
Before that happens, people have to learn how to get along with each other. That's still quite a ways off.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. Like, so, basically where I was going with that is I could see a day where, all that sort of stuff is unnecessary and we're all working towards one goal. But right now, I think there's a big problem with a lot of different nations wanting to isolate themselves from each other. Or not necessarily even isolate, but they want to isolate the citizens. The governments and stuff still want to do interaction with each other. They still want to fly around and party and make money and all that sort of stuff. But they don't want the people talking. And if they are talking, they only want them talking about whatever they want them to be talking about. And I just feel like if one more country does that, it's just going to make it easier for another country to go along and do it. But that's just my stance on it.
Yeah.
It's the snowball effect,
Yeah.
But hopefully it doesn't happen. I mean, but this is also Russia too, so it might be another case where people just ignore it. I mean, the USSR was fairly closed off for a long time anyway, as well. I mean, I wonder how many people remember the Berlin Wall, like literally remember what it was like.
I don't know if was I even born when that happened? I think I was.
You were.
It was like the early 90s.
I believe you were born right before it was torn down.
It was 1989.
Yeah, you were literally born like right when it was torn down. So was I. Like it was already being destroyed when I was born. But you're a year older, so you would have been born like right when it was being ripped apart.
November 9th, 1989. It was when it was destroyed. And I was born. Literally 11 months old at that point.
Yeah. And I was like 5 months away from being born. So my point still stands, though, that, like people seem to have forgotten, all the stuff that happened in the 60s and the 50s and the 70s and even the 80s. Like the world has changed a lot. It's actually quite a bit better if you go back and read history books.
Yeah.
We have learned, or rather I would say warfare has shifted. It's not necessarily about, killing as much. Cyber warfare is the future of it. But
speaking of Star Trek, do you ever see that episode, A Taste of Armageddon?
does this, everyone.
Yeah.
Just so you know, this is a very common occurrence. No, I haven't seen that episode.
So basically, the quick premise is that there is a simulated war going on, and whenever a simulated bomb was dropped or whatever, people who were in the area had to report to a a killing chamber or whatever, and they just get like evaporated painlessly, and it's like Kirk shows up and he's like, "What is this nonsense?" And so the people were like, "But it's better than like actual war," and it's like, "Yeah, but there's no incentive to stop," you know?
Yeah, that's a that's a very good point.
Yeah,
Because economics plays a much better role now, or much not better, but bigger role. I mean, it always has, but countries are not as eager to sacrifice their accumulated wealth as they probably once were.
yeah. Well, I want to know what you guys think about this story. Do you think the Russian government like creating their own internet is a good thing? You think it's a bad thing? Let us know what you think in the forums, forum.heavyelement.io. You can also hit us up in an email, show@offtopical.net. Oh man, so this last story, dude, what do you think about this? Microsoft debuted the Surface DS. The Surface Duo.
The Neo, you mean? The Neo and the Duo or
The
whatever?
Neo and the Duo. This is
here's the thing. Sorry. Who is this for? Because, like, that's the thing, right? Like, they're claiming that it'll be for businesses and enterprise customers. But it looks like it looks so flimsy. It looks like it would break.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't look sturdy. Because when you unfold it, it's just one giant screen. I mean, sure, when it's folded, I'm sure it's rather tough. Like, really tough. You could probably drop it and drive over it maybe. But, like, once you unfold it, it's like you drop it wrong and the screen's going to shatter.
Yeah, I mean, there's...
Who's it for?
I don't know who this is for. It's very strange to me. Like, for example, at my old day job, I had a laptop that was kind of like this, where it could like fold fully like 180 degrees.
Oh yeah, one of the ones like where you can twist the screen around and then fold it down.
No.
And then you could write on it.
This could
not one of those?
the hinge went a full 360 degrees, so you could just fold it out and back in. There was no like twisting, but
I've seen some that twist and fold down, which is weird.
I've seen those too, but the thing is, I never use that functionality. You know what I'm saying? Like, I use it as a laptop, and that's it. And maybe in this form factor, it might be a little bit more.
Yeah, because it doesn't weigh like 4 pounds or like 2 kilograms. It's a little lighter.
Right, but I just don't know who this is for. I don't understand.
And it's two separate screens.
But the thing that's interesting about this, the thing that I find most interesting about this is that it's running Android, right? Now, Microsoft hasn't done anything like this since 2017 when they retired Windows Phone. Is that right?
Yeah, about as close as they ever got is their Surface line itself.
Yeah.
Having the Windows, because Windows 10 has the mobile stuff.
Right.
But you know what the problem is, don't you?
No.
All the apps and stuff are still on Android. They never came to the Windows Store. A lot of them never came.
Right.
It's funny, if you actually open up the Windows Store, not that you have Windows 10, but if you ever do, open up Windows, the store, and look at how much stuff is on there. There's actually a lot more shit on there than people realize. Like,
Really?
Microsoft had to have paid a lot of money to get them devs on there.
Yeah.
And there might also actually just be a market for it, too. Like, in fairness, Windows is pretty big. So, and there are some pretty neat stuff on the Windows Store. Like, if you're an Xbox person, the Windows Store has, like, you can play most of your Xbox games through the Windows Store. Because Microsoft finally kind of separated, rather, instead of separating, they brought those two, markets together. So, like, if you buy some games digitally now, not if you buy a disc version, but if you buy some of them digitally, you can play it on your desktop as well. Which is cool, and then they have the Xbox or they call it the Microsoft Game Pass, or maybe it's the Xbox Game Pass. I don't know, whatever. And it has all those games, and you can play them on Xbox or you can play them on the Windows 10 store. Like, Microsoft is moving away from being an operating system, and instead it's moving to being a services platform.
Yeah.
Because there's more money in it. There's more not only is there just more money in it, there's also just flat out less work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I saw on Twitter yesterday or the day before that Satya Nadella was saying Microsoft is no longer a the Windows company. They're moving away from that, and they're trying to get more into services and stuff. And like, this is kind of evidence of that, because you have Android, a Microsoft product.
They're just selling the device. They're just selling the device.
Yeah. But that also means that what kind of commitments do they have left to their OEM partners?
I don't know. Probably for the next decade or so. Probably a fair bit. And, Microsoft has said and done similar stuff, not abandoning Windows, and then they've reversed course.
Yeah.
It's hard to say what their real reasoning is. Did you hear the rumor that Microsoft is... There's a rumor. Now, keep in mind, everyone, this is flat out just a rumor. It's not confirmed or anything like that, but it's been floating around for a while, and I've seen quite a few people reference to it. But Gardner, did you hear the rumor that Windows, because Windows 10 is supposed to be like a rolling release. It's just going to keep getting updates.
Mm-hmm.
But did you hear that there is a rumor, I'm going to keep saying that so everyone realizes it's a rumor, but that Windows, the next big update, not like coming, but like there's going to be a really big update in a few years, and Windows is going to be running on Linux. Did you hear about that rumor?
I've heard rumblings. I haven't heard any details.
No, I haven't either, but I keep hearing that. And it's funny because, some of the people I'm hearing that from are like, they're not, people who normally talk about, rumors, for example. And also I've been following a few bigwigs at Microsoft, and they are, getting more interested in Linux. And, I thought about that and I was like, well, like, it would be a lot of work because Windows is very, like, because that's the thing, too. Like, some people were talking about, like, I saw some Twitter thread and some people were talking about how great it would be. And all I can think of is, like, Windows is very dependent on, its kernel, obviously, because it's an operating system and, you need the kernel. But, like, all the components, like, it would not be a trivial task to rewrite all those components to work on Linux. It would be a major undertaking.
Right.
Like, absolutely major. I mean, look at all the components that, function. Like, like people are talking like, Microsoft's been open source stuff more recently. I don't remember what the last big thing was.
Windows 3.11.
No. Like, actual products.
Oh, no, it wasn't 3.11. It was 1.0, wasn't it?
Well, that was DOS, but... Oh, yeah, well, they also released the earlier Windows. What was it? Oh! I still don't remember what it was, but they've been dropping more and more open source stuff recently.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember what it was. It was the Visual Studio compiler.
Oh, yeah.
Or no, it was the C++ standard library.
Right.
It wasn't the compiler, it was the standard library for them. But they've been dropping more and more stuff. And I think that might be what started this rumor in the first place, that maybe Microsoft is preparing to slowly transition to Linux. And people were like, well, they should open source DirectX. I don't think a lot of people realize how connected to Windows DirectX is. Like OpenGL and Vulkan live in the driver, so to speak. But DirectX, yeah, you need a driver, obviously, so the graphics card knows what's going on. But it is very dependent on a lot of Windows systems, like their low-level systems. It would not be easy to port. So, I don't ever see DirectX open source.
I suspect, what Microsoft would probably end up doing is having, a hybrid kernel setup where it's because they're kind of doing that now with, the Windows subsystem for Linux or whatever.
Yeah.
But, if the Linux kernel became, a quote-unquote first-class citizen, and, Windows just ships with the Linux kernel as part of it. And you would be able to, and slowly they would be pushing developers to start using Linux kernel calls and subsystems like that. Or alternatively, they could do something similar to to Wine, where they create like binary, compatible like layers to let legacy Windows applications run against Linux
Yeah.
kernel calls or whatever.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of speculations and rumors, and they've been going around for a while, and they've just been growing either because Microsoft's not addressing them, or the stuff Microsoft's doing is lending more credibility to it. But one thing I could see, like in relation to DirectX, is like, okay, they can't really like getting DirectX to run would require like re-implementing it in a driver, and that's a tall task. I mean, I know that people have sort of done that before, but never to like, you know, the extent of, say completely open sourcing it, but like they could slowly start open sourcing, like, they could open source the entire DirectX spec, which that would be a big start. Like, can you imagine how much better Wine would get if they had like official documentation from Microsoft on how every single feature of DirectX functions and works?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And then, I was also thinking too, like you bring up a good point, like a compatibility layer. Like one thing Microsoft could do, let's just assume that either they're going to retire Windows completely and just let Linux reign, which I very much doubt. Like, people don't seem to understand. Microsoft wants Windows, but they want to be like, they just want to make Windows and people use it, and then they collect your warranty money. Kind of like how Apple has that care service. That's what they really want.
Microsoft wants to own the name Windows and not have to do any of the work to maintain it and collect money.
Pretty much. But that's impossible. So they have to do something.
Well, like they're going to replace, if what you're saying is true, if this rumor is true, they'll replace the Windows kernel with the Linux kernel, and then they'll have a significantly less development.
Yeah, because then all they have to do is maintain like their desktop environment and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But that means they also have to transition everything. And that's the problem. Like, that would be such a tall order. I wouldn't even want to tackle that. So my theory on it is if they were actually going to do such a crazy and absurd thing, which, by the way, I don't believe the rumor at all. They're not going to do it. I firmly don't believe they're going to do it. If they do, it'll be like a decade down the road or something. It won't be within a few years. But I could be wrong. And, that's fine if I am, because Linux is open source and GPL license. So by all means, it's also an infectious license. So by all means, bring it into the Windows space. I'm fine with that. But I could see them slowly open sourcing more components, and then maybe like they'll have an update where, they retain, old compatibility, but then they become POSIX compatible. Like over time, they just slowly start shifting all their low-level modules and stuff to being, compatible with open standards, to make the transition easier, because you can't do it at once.
Yeah.
And then if they continue to open source lower level system libraries and stuff, Wine would also improve, because Wine could just take it and then just use it. We didn't have to do anything, just take it and use it.
Yeah.
So I could totally see that happening, and then maybe they slowly transition, and then before we know it, like it'll be a gradual change. Like it'll just be an update one day. Like we're finally, fully Linux compatible, and Windows is just a desktop environment. Like, it's just like GNOME or KDE or anything like that. And it's just, that's all it is. It's just a desktop environment. Did you also see that they open sourced exFAT?
I did. I've seen a lot of conspiracy theories about that too.
I mean, they finally opened that. Yeah. Finally.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's part of the kernel.
Yeah. But that's a big deal, because they've been, remember, it was like, what, a couple months ago, we were like, they're never going to open source exFAT because they make so much money from the licensing.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be damned. They did it. They open sourced it. We were wrong, Gardner. Yep. We were wrong. And I think because, like I said, I mean, could you imagine if Microsoft kept the development team exactly as how they are, but Windows was just like Linux, but with a custom DE and a whole bunch of custom applications? Like, could you imagine how like actually fairly impressive Linux would get if they had that much, that massive of a machine of Microsoft's team?
Yeah, my only concern with that would be that Microsoft would be adding proprietary crap to the kernel. That would be.
Yeah, but remember, here's the thing. They're already on the Linux Foundation, which means they can already influence it to that degree anyway if they want to.
Yeah.
But the Linux kernel it can't not be GPL2. Like, it has to stay, or 3, whatever it is now. I think it's 2 still. I don't think they ever moved to 3.
They won't.
Yeah. But regardless of that fact, like the kernel will always stay open. Like they'll never be able to close it. So if you never want that stuff, you can always strip it out. And that's the beauty of it. Plus, most of the kernel, what most people consider the kernel, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the kernel, but the kernel also has a lot of modules. And it's much easier to just not include the random modules with the kernel. Because remember, the Linux kernel is designed to be very modular, which is nice.
Yeah.
Because, every module has one function and it should only do one thing and yada, 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 because that's how Linux works. But, I mean, they could easily add in a bunch of proprietary blobs everywhere. But it wouldn't matter because the kernel wouldn't have to, like, the distro wouldn't have to include them. And it wouldn't be necessary for the functionality of the kernel. And, it seems like the Linux the Linuxy mindset, not the elite mindset, but the general mindset that stuff should be open is slowly starting to infect even Microsoft.
Yeah.
Which is
that's a good thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a step forward. I mean, I love to joke about how Microsoft is, and I'm pouring some water here. But, they're releasing a lot of their stuff under MIT, which is pretty impressive when you consider some of the stuff that they're MIT licensing.
Yeah.
Like their standard library, I think, is Apache 2 or something, which is a strange one to pick, but it's fine with it. I mean, it's a good open license. It's just odd that they picked that specific one. Maybe it fit their needs, but I mean, their standard library is basically free for anyone to use for any purpose, commercial or otherwise. I mean, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't use it, but that's pretty neat. So, I mean, it seems like, I've said this for many years now because I've always felt that, Microsoft has everything to lose and Linux has nothing to lose. If we lose all of our funding from, all the big companies that are supporting Linux, Linux is still going to be here tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Because, our code's open and most of the people that work on Linux, they work on it for free. And even if they can't are, paid to work on it, they'll still work on it, just less. So Linux is not going anywhere, but Microsoft, Windows, that can disappear overnight. I mean, it obviously wouldn't, but,
Yeah.
It could be a slow death for it.
Right. I mean, we're already witnessing that.
Yeah. And I think it's because Windows makes a lot of money, but all the money that Microsoft makes from Windows is not directly linked. It's all indirectly linked. Like, enterprise customers don't pay as much, to my knowledge, as they used to because of the changes that they've made to Windows 10, but they still have to buy support, and that's what they buy. That's where they make all their money.
Yeah.
Hilariously, that Microsoft makes its biggest chunk of money the same way most Linux companies make money. Support.
Yeah.
I mean, look at how expensive Windows keys are. They're not that expensive.
I don't even know how much they cost.
You can pick them up for like pro versions are like $99. It used to be a lot more.
Yeah.
Like I remember buying Windows keys and stuff, and they were like $200-$300.
Yeah.
I mean, they used to be expensive.
Right. What do you guys think about Microsoft, like the future of Microsoft? Do you think this new Android phone from them is a sign of things to come? Let us know.
Is it a phone?
Yeah, it's a phone.
Okay.
They're not calling it a phone, but it's a phone.
I thought it was a tablet.
No, so I read another article that, pardon me, I read another article that said that Microsoft refuses to call it a phone, but it is a phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I don't even know what it is. I even
Right.
looked at the picture of it and still don't know what it is. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt
No.
you. You blew my mind when you were like, it's a phone.
It's
I'm
all
like,
good.
I thought it was a tablet or a little laptop. I didn't know it was a phone.
So the Neo is more of a tablet. It's kind of like an in between, and the Duo is more like a phone.
That's just confusing.
Yeah. It's weird. I don't know. But I got to know what you guys think about this, because I'd love to know what your take on this. And do you think this is more of a tablet? This is more of a phone? Let us know in the forums. forum.heavyelement.io. You can also hit us up on Twitter. I'm at the Linux Gamer. He's at Raven67854. We're also on Mastodon. I'm at gbryant at Librem.1. He's at Raven67854 at Librem.1. Raven, this has been an excellent episode. Thank you so much.
It sure has.
This has been the Off Topical Podcast. My name is Gardner, and let's do this again soon.